Welcome back. You're watching NewsX. My name is Vineet Malhotra, and this is, of course, a time for our rolling coverage on the G7 summit, which is taking place in France. Moments ago, we had that visual of Prime Minister Modi meeting President Donald Trump for the first time in 16 months. We are now learning that Prime Minister Modi is expected to hold a bilateral meeting with Donald Trump at 6:15 p.m. tomorrow. We'll continuously track that information that's coming in from France at this point in time. We'll also get some perspectives from our respected guests on what the G7 means for India, and in the face of some of the events which have transpired in the last few days, including the killing of three Indian citizens near the Strait of Hormuz. What does this meeting mean between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump? Joining us on the platform is Dr. Sharat Kohli, senior economist. Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, former diplomat, also joins us on the broadcast. Mr. Gautam Mukherjee, senior journalist, with us on the show as well. Gautam, I'll begin with you. Well, though India is not a part of the G7, it's been a prominent feature in these evolutionary talks when it comes to these world powers. Considering what's happened in the last few days, like I mentioned in my opening monologue as well, including the killing of three Indian citizens, what kind of a charter is expected between these two leaders?
Well, the number of times that India has been invited to the G7, along with a few other guests like this time as well, there is a possibility that India could become a permanent member. It could become G8. That's one possibility. The other possibility that has been spoken of again of late is a permanent seat at the UNSC with a veto power, which will obviously recognize one of the most important economies and countries going forward. And it is something that has long been desired but not granted. China took our seat long ago because of our own policies, and now that may come together again. In terms of the sailors killed in the Gulf right now, with the cessation of the war and the promise to open Hormuz in every way, the Straits of Hormuz in every way on Friday, after the formal signing ceremony takes place in Geneva with all parties. This will be a matter of compensation rather than difficulties between India and the US. I also think that the framework agreement, the FTA, will be signed very shortly. I think it's just a matter of formalizing it now after so many months of negotiation. So things are looking up in terms of our relationship with the United States, as well as with France, who played host over the last several days, and the other members of the G7 with whom we have very good relations, as well as some of the invited guests like Saudi Arabia, UAE, and others. Vineet.
All right. Fair point, Gautam. My colleague Megha Sharma is also joining us from Evian in France. Megha, I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining us. We saw a very warm handshake between the President of the United States and Prime Minister Modi. There are a few important discussions that India needs to have with the Americans pertaining to what happened to those attacks on Indian ships. And of course, India is also going to be discussing some of the tougher questions which prevail at this moment, owing to the tariffs, as well as perhaps the imminent embargo on India by the Americans when it comes to buying oil from Russia.
That is going to be a very significant meeting, the bilateral that is going to take place tomorrow between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Donald Trump on the final day of the G7 summit. We saw that very warm handshake, the eye contact, and of course those large smiles on the faces of both the leaders today when they met after the G7 plus family photo that was conducted earlier today. They are participating, both the leaders, in the working session called the Forging New Partnerships and Rebuilding International Solidarity, and both the leaders in fact are incidentally sitting next to each other. You spoke about the issue of the 3 Indian sailors that were killed in a US Navy attack in the Strait of Hormuz. I think, you know, I don't think that is going to be detrimental to the relationship that India shares with the United States of America, although there are conflicting views coming in from both sides. Of course, India had expected an apology for that attack and condolences to the families of the 3 sailors that lost their lives in that US naval attack. America at one point of time justifying itself as saying that this was a violation of the blockade that had been put in force by the Americans. It was you know, a shadow ship that was trying to sail through the Strait of Hormuz carrying Iranian oil, and therefore the United States was completely right, and in its you know, justified to go ahead and attack those ships. So I mean, since then, of course, there was a démarche that was issued. The charge d'affaires of United States of America to India was summoned twice over, and External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also spoke to Sergio Gore, the US State Secretary. But I don't think there's anything that is going to be done in terms of any follow-up conversation by the Prime Minister with President Trump. At the same time, you know, the free trade agreement is something, the bilateral trade agreement is something that both leaders are going to be focusing on single-handedly with regards to the last time both leaders came into the picture when they spoke 16 months ago. That a bilateral trade agreement needs to be concluded between India. That's where the idea got proposed. It's been 60 months. It has been languishing, although there have been hectic conversations in the last few weeks and months that have happened, which may indicate to a finality when it comes to concluding this particular deal. So, and of course, America has, you know, interests when it comes to, you know, Indian investments pouring into America. There has already been a commitment that has been made by India to America for investing $500 billion worth of these investments up until 2030. And India has been, of course, been wooed by America in being able to avail of the AI technology, deep tech technology, civil nuclear energy, space collaboration and cooperation. These are all aspects that are going to be are expected to be part of that conversation that is had between both the leaders. But I think it is all going to be, and of course, yes, I think it's very important to note, as you mentioned, that, you know, the sanctions that are likely to be, you know, likely to creep in once the West Asia war, the crisis has ended. Trump, in fact, has already indicated, saying that there is going to be reimposition of sanctions on Russian oil. So we'll have to see what happens. But India has always, you know, diversified itself, purchasing oil from Venezuela now. More percentage of it is now coming over to India month by month. So I think those are the tactics that India is going to utilize in case there is a sanction that is reimposed on countries that are buying Russian oil.
Well, Megha, one last question before we let you go. This is India's 13th participation, the 7th consecutive one for the Prime Minister at the G7. We are obviously hoping that you know, there's going to be a permanent role that India gets to play when it comes to the G7. It should be a G8. How is that conversation looking from the ground?
Well, yes, I mean, it would be fantastic for India to be part of the G7 grouping and make it G8. In fact, it is the biggest, largest economies of the world that gather, that are part of G7, which includes, of course, Germany and Italy and France and United Kingdom and Canada and United States of America and Japan as well. At this point of time, there has not been any statement that has been released by any of these heads of governments, whether it is France or any other G7 countries thus far. If there are back channel conversations that are happening, or track to dialogue that is happening to consider India as an important and significant member of the G7, is something that we'll have to wait and watch with regards to any public announcements being made to that effect. But India, which is growing at the fastest rate, a large economy that is growing at the fastest rate of about 6.6% still in wake of the global oil crisis, and is going to quickly take its place and replace Germany as the third largest economy of the world in the next few years. I think it is it's a fair position to have for India to be proposing itself to be part of the G7 summit, making it from G7 to G8.
Megha, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much for those updates. We'll keep, in fact, coming back to you for further updates and India's participation, as well as India's, outlook and India's contribution when it comes to this important forum. I'm going to go to Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist who's also with us on the program. Dr. Kohli, we are talking about forging a better partnership with the United States. We are talking about the Americans investing in India. But of late, and I'm very sure that you're aware of this already, the Americans have started pulling out money from India. And that has happened in the last few months. Is that something that the government is going to be concerned about and perhaps also bring to the table?
Good evening, Vineet, to you, my fellow panelists and the viewers. As far as America is concerned, I feel so long as Trump administration is there, there will be a certain trust deficit, because what is spoken is not followed, what is followed is not spoken, and handshakes are there, warmth is expressed. Those letters of India as a great country, Prime Minister Modi is a great friend. They are all laced with other agenda, which keeps coming. Even when Brendan Lynch came here recently, India was accused of forced labor, and additional tariffs of 12% were threatened. So I, personally speaking, over the last 1 year plus, since 2nd April, since President Trump launched that game of tariff, I have very little, trust as far as America is concerned. And as far as the death of our sailors are concerned, Vineet, I'd like to make a very quick comment on that. I think India must lodge a very, very strong protest. I mean, calling the charge d'affaires here twice over, I feel is not enough. There should be a very strong protest launched with President Trump, and there should be a not just.
But Dr. Kohli, do you think that's happened? Are you happy with the way India has reacted when it comes to these 3 sailors dying? How do you think the Americans would have reacted if India, was the oppressor here?
Yeah, I was coming to that only, Vineet, that, there should be a very strong protest, and it should be followed by action as well, not just protest. We should take some counter action, which should be symbolic of the fact that we are not satisfied, because not even an apology has come, first of all, Vineet. Where is an apology? They say we were right. So they have no regret for that matter, which is why I feel that there should be a very strong protest followed by action. I mean, there could be a symbol of Indian sanctions on America, because Americans have a very significant presence in India. Some kind of action is required, because you can't let it go just because America is the largest economy in the world. This cannot be allowed. There should be either a compensation coupled with apology, coupled with some sanctions. Well, I'm not satisfied with what has happened until now. Just calling them twice over and lodging a protest is not enough. It's not going to redeem the losses which the families have suffered and the disgrace it has brought to the country, for that matter. Obviously the Americans knew who were the people aboard the particular ship. So it was fired with an intention, and India came in crossfire or whatever. That's not the question. The question is that the Indians died. Every life, the way it matters in America, in the same way it matters in India. So America can't take it lightly. That's my feeling on the whole matter. And I think Prime Minister Modi, I'm sure this will come up, and it should come up with an action as well, not just a simple discussion, a handshake, and the matter is over. On the matter of tariffs, I really don't think America wants to do any deal with anyone. I mean, the entire exercise done over last year, we know it's out of the window now, thanks to the Supreme Court order. The 10% tariffs are on. They want to levy additional 12% under Section 301B while investigating India for forced labor. And so nothing that America has been doing in terms of administration, Vineet, has been very, very favorable so far. So I don't have very high hopes of a deal, even if the deal happens, whether it's going to survive or not survive. I personally speaking, because we've got very deep-rooted relationships with America, people to people, technology to technology, workforce, H-1B visas. We are very deeply imbibed in the American system. But somehow, this administration has taken the relations in a very, very different direction. And the relations have been under strain. This is despite very warm meetings between the two leaders. The meetings have been very warm, but then every time a statement saying that India is a very dear friend or Prime Minister is a very dear friend, it has been followed up with something not very likable thereafter. So therefore, I am for G7 summit because we do more than $260 billion of bilateral trade with G7 countries. And as far as G8 is concerned, Vineet, I don't have any hopes. I'm sorry. These countries are racist. They will not allow a brown guy to walk into G7. So I really don't think that would be a possibility.
That's a big statement you have made, Dr. Kohli. You said these countries
Absolutely.
are racist.
Yeah, they are
What's
racist.
what's the basis for this criticism? What's the basis for this observation?
No,
I want to know.
I have no qualms. You and me have traveled to all these countries, haven't we?
I know. That's why I want to know from your experience.
And I have been part of certain international groups through our companies. I have found when you deal with them, they are very, very racist. They will be very nice with you. They'll talk every sort of thing with you. But when it comes to allowing people from other countries into such groups, they always have a reservation. And first of all, G7 was meant to be top 7 countries of the world. Tell me, where is Canada the top 7 country of the world? Tell me, do you count Canada as a top 7 country? I'm sorry. Do you count Italy? I'm sorry, no. So this is a historical group, I would say. In the current times, in the current scenario, I really don't think these 7 countries should be top 7 countries of the world. The world global order has changed. The global economy has changed. I think the GDP of the countries have been rearranged. India today is the 5th largest, 6th largest country. So if you go by the GDP, it should be. Are you going by military power? I'm sorry. I can identify Canada, Italy, who are no big military powers for that matter. India is a far bigger military power. So what is keeping India away? Which is why I call them racist, because they will not allow a brown skin to walk into the group. I'm sorry to say this, Vineet.
Well, that's a very startling thing that you have said. And if that is something which affects the nature and disposition of the geopolitics in the world, then Ambassador Sachdev, we have a big problem at our hand, don't we?
I think we do, although I won't go as far as Mr. Kohli has done. I think we have challenges, and I think realism demands a certain methodology on our part for diplomatic or economic engagement. G7 came out of OECD, and India is not yet part of OECD. So that is one big stumbling block. As it is, they have their own coordination as Western economies among themselves, monetarily or economic policy-wise. They have fairly elaborate structures to interface with each other, and their currencies, their monetary systems, their trade policies, etc., are all in sync. Although Mr. Trump has tried his best to disrupt them. I would also add here that India has been partner country for a long time. We're not just an invitee this time. We are a partner country, and the French have taken care of putting us on a slightly higher elevation. Uh, Having said that, I think G7 presence affords India an opportunity to engage bilaterally. That is important because it allows us to mirror our presence inside the BRICS, and we are going to host the BRICS summit in a couple of months' time, and I think this is a counterpoise to that particular event. I think India is apart from Brazil, India is the only country which has put in those two doors, and I think this is important. India becoming a member of G7 is only a matter of time. I think the way we are growing, we would be third largest economy by 2030. We would have become it earlier, but our currency seemed to have not helped by depreciating pretty fast during the last 1 year. But market size, economy, share market, and so on, all those attributes are in our favor. And I think we have to unleash a bit of competitiveness among the G7 to hold our hand. We succeeded with France to some extent. Similarly, if we can do it with a number of others, that will create consensus within G7 to get India in. But then that may have its own costs, which may not suit us. That we'll have to work it out separately. I think meeting Mr. Trump is going to be the important feature of this G7 for us. Remember the last G7 we had in Canada, Mr. Trump walked away in a huff, and while Prime Minister was there, they had a rather acid conversation on phone about Trump's frequent claim about having prevented a nuclear war between India and Pakistan. And since then, the relations have been a bit tense. Now, let's hope that this event takes care of that baggage. And much would depend on Mr. Trump to make gestures, which so far he hasn't. But then Iran episode has taught him the limits of perceived hyperpower that United States seem to believe it has. So perhaps a more chastened Mr. Trump would be happier to engage with India, to be more sensitive to our concern. Thank you.
You're absolutely right, sir. Gautam, what do you make of this fact that India obviously has been invited? It's an honorable thing, but alluding to what Dr. Kohli also said, that India is just going to be there on the periphery. It's never going to be a part of the core of the G7, and whatever is happening at this point in time pertaining to India is more for optics than for brass tacks.
Well, the world is changing, and the old European powers. This is a build-up after the Second World War. It has grown irrelevant, just as the UNSC has largely become, a sort of outdated club the way it is right now. They all have veto powers, and there are blocks. You've got China, Russia on one side, and you've got America basically bossing the other two, though France likes to suggest it is independent. The G7, the purpose of it, if it is meant to be an alignment of sort of NATO powers, it's one thing. Now that too is undergoing change. We might hang on to the idea that Trump is the person who is out outlier, and when he goes, things will moderate and come towards the center. On the other hand, you have to consider.
Gautam, just hold on to that thought. We have some breaking news coming in as well. The working session titled Forging New Partnerships and Rebuilding International Solidarity is now underway at the G7 summit in France. G7 leaders, along with invited partner countries, the World Bank and the African Development Bank, are taking part in the discussions. This is focusing on strengthening international cooperation, creating more effective and equitable partnerships, particularly with developing nations, and rebuilding global solidarity to tackle shared challenges. Gautam, continue. I wanted to, in fact, update our viewers that we are also getting updates from France.
Along the same lines as what I'm trying to get at, Mr. Modi did say that he was going to try and represent some of the concerns of the global south. It's what he does in BRICS, it's what he does in G20, G21 now. So, the nature of the beast is being forced to change. Nobody is going to put India into these kind of closed clubs because they like us or dislike us. They're going to do it because it serves their purpose. And insofar as we are none too keen to belong to a bloc, we've always resisted that, but we belong to a lot of clubs now, ASEAN, BRICS, the ones which are sponsored by China. We are also very friendly with the Africans. So there is no harm done if we are invited to become a permanent member. It is, as Ambassador Sachdev just said, inevitable in the long run. You cannot keep a power that is in a matter of a few years going to be the number 3 economy and a growing military power, including a manufacturing power, and also now with our breeder technology, a nuclear electrical power, using technology that others haven't even come to. You've got, of course, ISRO, and you've got the missile technology. All the BrahMos plants, all 4 of them are booked up, 7 billion worth, I think. So it's hard to keep us out. Never mind.
Okay, all right. Fair enough. I see your point there, but I have some breaking news also coming in, Gautam. US President Donald Trump has met UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan in the sidelines of the G7 meeting. He calls him a warrior and praises the relationship as outstanding, calling it an honor to be with him. Trump also refers to a recent Iran deal and describes the UAE as a powerful ally.
Our Navy, because the naval blockade was unbelievable. But I'll not only release it, I'll probably have a press conference and read it to you word by word so that the press covers it accurately. Because it's a very important document, and unlike Obama, who could have destroyed the Middle East with a horrible JCPOA, it is the worst agreement. That was a road to a nuclear weapon. Mine is a wall against a nuclear weapon. I mean, I see these people say, but we already had one. That was the worst. He paid a fortune for it. We paid nothing. We don't pay. There was some statement, we're going to spend $300 billion. No.
All right. Donald Trump, once again, in his imitable style, talking about how great he is and how his predecessors really botched up the JCPOA deal with Iran. Perhaps a lot of experts feel that whatever Donald Trump is working on right now is basically reinventing that same deal that Obama and Biden had in mind. Nevertheless, I'm going to take a reaction from Dr. Kohli as well to what Gautam said. Dr. Kohli, do you subscribe to the fact that it'll be hard for the West to ignore India, considering the fact how large we are and how our industrial capability, just like China, cannot be ignored? Or do you still endorse the fact that India is just going to be used as a client state, a country that buys equipment from the West and provides cheap labor, and that's where the argument ends?
Vineet, it's already becoming hard for them to ignore India. And along with becoming hard to ignore India, they're also getting a lot of heartburns. And it is these heartburns which are causing so many, such statements to come. so many flip-flops happening as far as India is concerned. They can't believe that the so-called land of snake charmers is today running their own country. If you take out Indians from America, and I can guarantee America will come to a standstill. Take out Indians from UK, and I can guarantee UK will come to a standstill. Believe me or not. I mean, it will be hard to try, but try doing that hypothetically. And you will find these countries, so they get a lot of heartburn, which is why, when Indians move around, how many times have you and me traveled to each of these G7 countries? Tell me, I see you traveling so often. I've been there for the last 25 years. I've been traveling to these countries. Every time you walk on the street, you feel that you can probably make this country great, or you make this country great. But whereas when they look at you as second-class citizens. And that's exactly where my thought came from. I didn't want to offend any of the G7 members, but I was just bringing the reality in front that India is the next economic superpower, which they definitely cannot ignore. I mean, just wait and see in the next 5 years. I agree with Ambassador Sachdev that we are going to be the third largest. We are just, because of the US dollar becoming strong, I won't say rupee becoming weak, but because of the dollar becoming strong, because of the crude oil prices, we have slid down to fifth or sixth.
All right. Dr. Kohli, we have a paucity of time, but I appreciate your thoughts and I appreciate your perspective, and I appreciate the perspective of all our guests. Thank you so much for joining. So breaking news coming in, Kenya President William Ruto has said that there is a growing realization that the United Nations, as it currently stands, is no longer fit for purpose. Speaking on global governance, he adds that the world is entering a new reality. He further stated that this changing order demands what he calls a new world order to respond to emerging global challenges. All right, we'll take a short break on that note. More on the other side.